Welcome to all of you. We appreciate you being part of this forum. The timekeepers will hold up a yellow sheet at 30 seconds, then we'll hold a red sheet when your time is up. The timekeepers are Miss Bridget Tyson and Judge Janice Summons. So you know that they're You will have 1 minute for opening and closing remarks and 2 minutes for the 3 questions asked. Will you please introduce yourself and tell the audience why you are running for state representative? You will have 1 minute, and we will start with Mr. Coppedge.
Hi, my name is Walter Coppedge, and I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for not only orchestrating this candidate forum, but also for registering voters across North Texas counties. I'm a collection of many things. I'm a son, an older brother, a husband, a stepfather, a father, a friend, a pilot, a certified public accountant, a businessman, a Presbyterian, a Democrat, a Rotarian, a music lover, a candidate for state representative District 69, and an opponent of school vouchers. That lets you know a little bit about who I am.
Thank you, Mr. Coppedge. Representative Frank.
Thank you very much. It's like speed dating, 60 seconds. Yeah, so let me let you know who I am from a personal standpoint. Started with that. I've been married to my wife, Alicia, for 35 years. She was born and raised here. I got here when I was 13. We've been here for the most part ever since then. We've got 6 boys, ages 32 through 18, which means 3 weeks ago was empty nest after 32 years of 6 boys at home. The first 4 biological, the last 2 were adopted about 8 years ago out of CPS. And then professionally, I've got manufacturing companies. I was in banking until I was 33. Man, that goes fast. Until I was 33, bought an 11-man welding shop. Now we've got about 200 employees in Sharp Iron and a couple of other companies here in town making stuff. Politically, this is the only position I've run for. I love it. Serving the district. We have 14 counties now. And I've spent my time on water issues, and the last 6 years I've been chair of Human Services, which is over the Medicaid program, the State Supported Living Center, state hospitals, as we just opened yesterday, or not opened, but had the $450 million new project, and so that's what we do. Man, that's great.
Mr. Frey, will you please introduce yourself and tell the audience why you're running for state senate?
Absolutely. How you guys doing? My name is Dale Frey. I'm running to be your next Texas State Senator for District 30. It's a big, massive area that stretches across 11 counties, but I look forward to fighting the good fight. Guys, I stand here today because I want to try to fix our broken healthcare system. I know we have Medicaid recipients being dropped because the rates are not what they should be, which is sickening because we should be part of the Medicaid expansion program, which would absolutely fix that. This affects people's lives. Like my father-in-law, for example, as he was battling cancer, and also especially as a retired public school teacher. I was shocked to find out how little amount of money public school teachers make in retirement, and even before retirement. Another friend of mine, Vicky, told me how much money she made as a public school teacher before she retired. And I said, my God, that's the same amount of money I made in my first job out of college. Guys, we need to stand against this voucher scam. But look, if you want to learn more about me, because I'm about to run out of time, you come to FreyForTexas.com. That's F-R-E-Y for Texas.com. Thank you for your time, and God bless Texas.
Hello, I'm Brian Hagan. Thanks for having us here today. Hey, you got a decision to make about your next senator. I think when I look at hiring somebody, I look at the values that I have. I look at their references and their resume. My values are basically Christian family values. I've been endorsed by the governor, Lieutenant Governor, President Trump, 6 conservative state senators, and the majority of the sheriffs in these 11 counties. In terms of my background, resume, I'm a Naval Academy graduate, served 13 years active duty as a naval officer. 3 deployments overseas as a CD company commander. Have a successful business we built from scratch over the last 18 years, one of the largest freight companies in the grocery industry now. I've been serving the Republican Party for about 10 years, working on getting good people elected and good policy. If I get elected, I want to make sure we secure the border, fund the police, make sure we keep the Texas economy running strong, cut taxes, tax school choice, and fix the power grid. Appreciate you.
Thank you, sir. Representative Frank, do you think the state has done enough to protect schools and communities from gun violence? If you do, what steps do you feel have been taken to properly protect our schools and communities? If not, what additional steps do you support? And if any time you need to ask me to repeat a question, that's fine, at any time. Okay. Timers, now you can start.
Okay. Thank you for the question. I think we can always do better at everything we do. The gun violence issue, and it's not gun violence, it's people violence, is a serious issue, and it's mostly caused by the disintegration of the family. If you look at virtually every case, the lack of parenting, and that is a huge issue. In many cases, that is largely caused or incented by many of the government programs that incent the dissolution of the family. If you look, 60 years ago, the vast majority of kids were in two-parent homes. Now the vast majority are not. And in almost every cases of gun violence or violence of any kind, knives or anything, I don't know why we only focus on one type of violence, that it is almost always the disintegration of the family. Can we do better? Absolutely. Do I believe that we've done a lot of things? Yes, we have put a lot more money into the actual security, the actual physical security of it. We have made sure that there is a good guy with a gun, or a good person with a gun in the schools. In the school marshal program, we have funded to make sure there are police on the campuses. Are there things we can do better? Absolutely. Do we want kids literally in a prison to make sure nobody can come in? No, we have to have parents in our schools. We have to be able to have parents in our schools, and I think that is an important part of it as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Coppedge, do you think the state has done enough to protect schools and communities from gun violence? If you do, what steps do you feel have been taken to properly protect our schools and communities? If not, what additional steps do you support?
I've still got 2 kids in school because they're teachers. Every year they have lockdowns. Some of them are for real, some of them aren't. We have too many guns, and I'm sorry that some people don't think we have enough. We don't have enough regulation. We need to have red flag laws. We need to have registration. We do not need to be selling an AR-15 to an 18-year-old. And that's what we do. My son just called me the other day. Do you have a couple bungee cords you can give me? He said, we just had a lockdown and I want to make sure the door won't open. This is a serious thing, and if you can't get people off the streets that have tendencies, and all they can do is go out and buy a gun or obtain a gun easily, that's not the way I want to live. I'm sorry it's not more specific than that, but I don't want the Wild West. I don't want to walk into a McDonald's and have the guy ordering next to me with an AR-15 strapped to his back. That's just crazy. We need red flag laws, we need tighter controls, and we need education.
I would ask the audience to let the candidates please speak because they're on a 2-minute time, and if there is clapping, I understand, but it's their time. So I would ask the audience to be very respectful of that. Thank you. Mr. Hagenberg, do you think that the state has done enough to protect schools and communities from gun violence? If you do, what steps do you feel have been taken to properly protect our schools and communities? If not, what additional steps do you support?
Yeah, when we first say this, a gun is a piece of metal, it's a tool, that's what it's supposed to be, that's what it's meant to be. Second Amendment says that we have the right to bear arms, so I believe in that. In terms of safety, I think there's things that we need to do, and I was glad for SB 22, which got passed, and the Senator of the House Rep got to help to get that done. That gave additional funding to sheriff's departments, for additional funding for sheriffs for their pay. Actually, one of the counties I know is using it to make sure that they have radios that work inside the schools. So security in the schools, fully funding police is important. I think mental health is a big issue as well, that we have this state that, as I've learned around 11 counties, really found more about how big that issue is and how we have to do a lot more for early intervention for mental health. I think drugs is an issue as well, and closing the border will help a lot with that, with fentanyl problems.
Thank you. Mr. Fred,
You're asking if we've done enough?
do you think the state has done enough to protect schools and communities from gun violence?
No.
If you do, what steps do you feel have been taken to properly protect our schools and communities? If not, what additional steps do you support?
Well, thank you. It's an excellent question. The very fact that you have to answer or ask that question means no, of course we have not done enough. We have not done enough. And look, this is a mental health issue as well, among many other things. Common sense red flag laws, I believe, are something that we need. And look, I know I need to be careful because I'm a Democrat. And I know you're going to think I'm going to try to take your guns away. No one's trying to take your guns away. We just want our kids to be safe. Okay? We just want our kids to be safe. Common sense red flag laws. Watching out for warning signs. Funding our mental health programs, which is not being done right now. We have a failing healthcare system in Texas right now. We have an underfunded public school system right now. If you really want to protect our kids in our public schools, fund our public schools. But that's not happening right now. So we need to fund our public schools, we need to fund our healthcare system, we need common sense, guys, common sense red flag laws. Not trying to take your guns away, we just want our kids to be safe. Thank you.
Yes.
You get to answer the next one also.
Oh boy.
With the closing of rural hospitals and the elimination of some services like labor and delivery, what should Texas do to improve physical and mental health care in rural areas?
So first and foremost, we need to become part of the Medicaid expansion program. I sometimes lose people when I talk about this. Medicaid expansion program is a program we all spend money into through our federal taxes, right? Money flows into this national money bucket and then goes to each state in the country, but not us, because we're not opted into the Medicaid expansion program. I want you all to understand what I'm saying right now, because if you're a fiscal conservative, this should really bother you to know that we're paying for medical programs in California, we're paying for medical programs in New Jersey, but not back here in Texas. We're losing a good $10 billion a year throughout all of Texas, every year because of this. So first, we need to become part of the Medicaid expansion program that will help stimulate this. We also need to revise how much funding comes directly from our legislature to health and human services as well within the state. I know Knett, who is a healthcare provider, was telling me how she has to drop some of her Medicaid recipients because she says the money's just not there anymore. She talked about how Health and Human Services Commission, their rates have not been adjusted since long before the pandemic. And so therefore, inflation is killing her in the sector. When these rates do not get adjusted, when the legislature does not get involved and update the rates as needed as inflation continues, this hurts us in every sector, both education and healthcare as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Holmes, with the closing of rural hospitals and the elimination of some services like labor and delivery, what should Texas do to improve physical and mental health care in rural areas?
Yes, I know it's a problem. As I said, when we were in 11 counties, it was one of the things I really saw more than I realized before how big the issue is. Mental health is being a big piece of that. Now, the Texas legislature passed on last session funding for about $2 billion to continue to work on this whole area. And a lot of it has to do with workforce development, nurses, other medical professionals. I know MSU has a great program for nurses, and I've talked to Sam Pack a little bit about potentially expanding the doctor's program. Maybe we can talk about that on Monday when I meet with you. But so I think funding and workforce development in the whole medical field is very important. Encouraging people to work in rural areas is important. In terms of hospitals and facilities, that funding has some funding in there to do things like put up clinics that are not stay overnight type clinics, but places where you can have early intervention for mental health. I think those kinds of things will help. I think the funding is coming, and talked to Charles Perry, the chairman of that committee in the Senate. But as I discussed it with him, I really believe that the funding is coming, and we'll see some real relief in the next couple of years in this area.
Thank you. Mr. Potter, as I said, perhaps we would like to just not clap and give more time because somebody wants to watch the Cowboys games tonight. That was not a good speech, okay? Mr. Potter, with the closing of rural hospitals and the elimination of some services like labor and delivery, what should Texas do to improve physical and mental health care in rural areas?
We need to expand Medicaid in Texas. There are only 10 states that did not participate in the Medicaid expansion. Texas was one of them. If you live in Texarkana, you can move 2 blocks away and get covered by Medicaid in Arkansas, or Oklahoma, or New Mexico, or Louisiana. You can't in Texas. We're missing out on a lot of money. If Texas would spend $100,000 on medical care, the federal government would pay $900,000. You can't get that kind of odds anywhere. We need to expand the medical clinics in the rural areas. We need to expand Medicaid. I just read an article this morning in ProPublica that Texas kicked people off of Medicaid really quick, and they made a lot of mistakes. And now there's over 2 million kids that deserve to be on Medicaid that aren't. Some of them having to pay $6,000 a month in medication. This is wrong. Texas was bound and determined to speed through that, even though they messed up and threw people off the program that deserved to be on it. We need to expand Medicaid, expand mental health across the state. That will help with gun problems. We need to do the right things and help the people of Texas. Texas is now the 3rd worst state to move to because of education and because of health care.
Thank you. Representative Frank.
Yeah, it's interesting to say that Texas is the 3rd worst state to move to. I think we need to let people from California understand that. Let's tell them that, and then they would stop moving here. It's ridiculous to say that. It's ridiculous to say that 2 million people have been kicked off Medicaid. That is simply not true. The fact is, if you want the best reasons not to expand Medicaid, all you have to do is listen to the governors of California and New York, and they will tell you. Because what has happened in those states is able-bodied people have made it harder for people who actually need services, which is what Medicaid was designed for, to get it. You're putting able-bodied people onto a program that was designed for people that need it, and that's what's happening. So, and the people kicked off, what had happened is, we say we haven't expanded Medicaid in the state of Texas. In the last 20 years, we've gone from 2 million Texans to 5 million people, actually at a high of 6 million people. It's pretty expansion. It's part of the reason it's crushed the budget. Part of the reason we have trouble funding in a balanced budget state, schools and those kind of things, is because of the Medicaid ballooning. Okay? So when we say Medicaid, it is a federal program. They control all the strings, and they end up controlling a huge part of our budget. Let's be real. If the federal government wanted to handle it, they could just handle it without us. But they want us to pay. They want us to pay, and then they control the whole thing. There's 2 million people in Texas uninsured that are qualified for Obamacare. Don't take it. All right. In terms of rural health care, really what we need to do is drive the cost of health care down. Really simple. That was the first answer on the Medicaid, because it's an easy thing to say unless you actually look at the facts. In terms of health care in this country, we pay twice as much for health care as the rest of the first world for the same or equal results. And it's primarily, and this is, I think we can say, is ecumenical problem at the federal government level. Think about it. You pay twice as much for drugs. You have drugs manufactured in this country that are sold in Europe for $100 that are sold here for $500. Oh, I could go all day on that.
That's because of funding.
Anyway, we can drive the cost of healthcare down from the state.
Thank you, sir. Next question, Mr. Ravenberg. As this is going to be a key issue in the legislature, do you support school choice vouchers? Why or why not?
Yes, I do support school choice officers. School choice, really, I would say, put it as the governor's parent empowerment initiative. Because I believe parents should have choice. I believe in the end, parents should have control over their children's education, and the money should follow the child. Particularly in situations where the schools that are pushing down the woke ideology, indoctrination, we don't need that in our schools. But in general, I think parents should have a choice. And that doesn't mean I'm against public schools. We spend $39 billion a year in public schools. The governor's program would be about $500 million, $500 million. It's a lot of money, but small in comparison to the whole situation. You have to have a functioning, good public school system to have a good democracy, good republic. Of course, we all support that. But one example is that in the last Senate, we had $6 billion passed through for teacher raises. I think we need that. I would vote for that in the future. We need to make sure teachers stay up with, are paid well and stay up with inflation. But I do believe that parents should have a choice. Competition is, I'm a businessman. You have the greatest economy in the world. Competition has been a good force. It creates innovation, some other things. I believe that competition in education will see some real benefits from it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Craig.
Yeah, I got good news for you guys. You have a school choice right now already. If you want to send your kid to a private school, you can do that right now. We just don't want you to go to your next door neighbor's house and ask them for their private money to send your kid to a private school. All right, look, the school voucher scam is not funded by the big massive surplus that we very much do have in Texas. It specifically is designed specifically to take money away from our public education system.
Exactly.
Case in point, in Plano ISD, for example, we're losing 4 of our public school buildings. And I've seen this movie before, I know how this goes. The ISD is going to sell those buildings because the ISD needs the money. Some fat cat rich person is going to purchase those buildings, flip those buildings into charter schools, and then want a voucher program. What you're seeing happening right now is a privatization of our public education system. This is not the will of the people. Google this when you get home. It's the will of Tim Dunn and Ferris Wills, 2 Texas billionaires who fund the majority of the Republicans in the
That's
legislature.
right. Yes. That's right.
Now, look, guys, again, I cannot stress this enough. Our public schools are already funded as it is. The formula that determines how much money goes to each ISD has not been adjusted since, I think, before the pandemic, to say the least, I think almost a decade. And every time they try to adjust the rates that go to our ISDs, they always tie it with a voucher scam, which is why it bombs in the House. Again, the House, dominated by Republicans. Even Republicans don't want this either, especially rural Republicans, because they know it will hurt them the hardest. Case in point, if you're out in rural Texas, how close is the closest private school to you? Will that private school actually take your kid? Does your kid have special needs? Because all these private schools have entry exams and they don't need to take your kid in if they don't want to. In fact, a lot of these private schools don't even need to opt into the voucher program or even accept being part of the voucher program. Guys, public education is a public utility, all right? It's a public utility. We do not defund public utilities. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Craig, would you like for me to repeat the question?
I think I got it. Yeah, it's funny. Every single one of you out here wants choice for their kids. Every single one of you wants options for your kids. Some of you are wealthy enough to get it. It's great to say, oh, just send them to a private school. Most people can't send them to a private school. The voucher program, and I love the fact that we call it a voucher program, there hasn't been a voucher program. It's actually an ESA, the money doesn't go to the parent. You'd be better off calling it a scholarship program. When you call it a voucher program, you kind of show what you actually think of it. Okay, it's actually, it empowers parents. What do you tell a parent? What do you tell a parent that says, this is not working for my kid? Okay, if you want to look at it through the eyes of the school, and I've talked to the school superintendents, I love my school superintendents. I think I have a lot more confidence in the schools than they have in themselves. The vast majority of people are going to stay in public schools. But for that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% of kids that have either been bullied, have a learning problem, and they need something different, if your answer is, as long as your parents can afford $10,000, you have choice, you might need to take a look at yourself in the mirror. because that's what the program is set up. The program was set up, it started with kids whose parents have less than 100% of free and reduced lunch. It is set up based on income, and every single one of you will do whatever you can to have an option for your kid. But you want to sit up, or some people want to sit up and make sure that other kids don't have options unless they happen to be wealthy, and I think that's ridiculous. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Cockett.
I'll let you read the question.
Yes. As this issue is going to be a key issue in the legislature, do you support school vouchers? Why or why not?
I do not support school vouchers. I do not support school choice. I do not support education savings accounts. This has been drilled in to the governor by the two billionaires, Tim Dunn, Ferris Wilks, who are not interested in your kid. They're interested in Christian nationalism. And James can disagree with me, and that's why we can sit at the same table. But these billionaires have paid a lot of money to elect people who will vote the way they ask them to.
That's right.
And it is going to hurt rural Texas. If Crowell, Texas has to close their school because they can't have enough funding, their kids are going to be bused to Quanah. They're going to be bused several hours a day. That's not fair, and that's not right. Education savings account is just a political way. It's advertising for school vouchers. Right now in Texas, the schools are spending $800 a year per student more than they are receiving. Because school vouchers did not pass last year in the final extra special session, Governor Abbott withheld $5 billion from the schools that the schools were counting on to pay the teachers. We don't need to have privatization of public education. And that is what I'm afraid will happen. It has happened in Louisiana, and I'm against school vouchers.
We will now have closing remarks. You will each have 1 minute, and we will start with Representative Frank.
Well, thanks for the discussion. Obviously some differences of opinion, and that's okay. Viva la difference. Really appreciate the opportunity to serve this district for the last 12 years. Hope y'all will continue to give me the opportunity to do it. I'm still pretty passionate about it. I enjoy it most of the time. I'm able to spend about 70 or 80% of my time doing it. Thankful to some really good people at the companies, and really hope to have the opportunity to continue to serve. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Cockett.
I'm running for state representative, District 69, because voters deserve a choice when they cast their ballots. Throughout my life, I've been presented with opportunities, sometimes disguised as problems. Texas has big problems, but we can turn them into opportunities together. When that happens, Texans can stand tall and proud. Thank you, and please vote for your choices on the ballot. Early voting starts October 21st, and election day is November 5th. Thank you.
Yeah, Dennis, I really hope that you pay attention to this election and know who you're voting for. You got to vote for your own personal self-interest as well. But again, my name is Dale Frey. I stand and try to fix our broken healthcare system, trying to support our public schools and public school teachers. I want to move us forwards, not backwards. And my opponent will not do that. I promise you. If you need any proof, look at the concept and how he calls himself pro-business, when the reality is his company that he owns and runs, Titus Transport, 3 months ago has been brought to court by the Teamsters of Arizona Local Chapter 104 for not only intimidating his own employees into not unionizing, but firing them when they try to. His second top donor is the Texas for Lawsuit Reform PAC, which wants to make it more difficult for you to sue your employer and your company if they do wrongdoings to you. If you need any more further proof, this guy does not live in the district. He does not live in Senate District 30, he lives in Senate District 12. So please, pay attention to who you're voting for, and pay attention to who will represent you in this election. Thank you.
Mr. President.
I certainly am a resident. Our company says we take care of our drivers. They take care of getting food to American Families tables. We take care of our drivers. We have 750 of them. They work for us voluntarily. We pay them at the high end of the scale, and we deliver groceries for Kroger, all the other companies. They have good jobs. We take care of them, good health care. Just to reiterate, my values are family, Christian values. I'm being endorsed by President Trump, Governor Abbott, and Governor Dan Patrick, and a number of oththers. I have influenced those folks to help our district get what it needs. In terms of my background, Naval Academy graduate, 13 years active duty, naval officer, successful business with 900 employees that we keep working and take care of them and their families, and 10 years of working in the Republican Party. As I said, I think there's a real difference between us. School choice, gun rights, you can see the differences there. As I said before, I want to focus on securing the border, funding the police, make sure the Texas economy runs strong, and cut property taxes, and pass school choice. I'm Brett Hagan, and I appreciate your vote.
Thank you so much.
Well, all right. We want to remind you that the last day to register to vote is October 7th. Everyone should make sure that they are registered. If you go online to vote411.org, you can check to make sure. If you are not registered to vote, we have tables outside of the forum where you can register after. Ms. Chenault is unable to attend the forum due to the death of a very dear friend. Since it is a late notification, we will ask Commissioner Mahler to come forward and make a statement.